Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how you doing tonight?
Good. At kind of an early night, eh? Like the game started early and it's over early, so here we are doing the podcast fairly early. Not at midnight or 1 a.m. like when it's a West Coast game. So that's all right.
This was a late game compared to those two on the weekend, though. This
Yeah,
whole
that's
road
true.
trip, hey?
Yeah, that was wild. So interesting game, Bruce. The Oilers won 3-0. Didn't ever have the feeling of being in doubt, mainly because the Flyers couldn't make a play around the net. If they'd connected on some of their chances where they got close to the net, there was probably 3 or 4 chances where they got really tight, absolutely looked like they were going to score, and then they muffed it. And that really stymied them. So we had the grade A scoring shots at 13-9 for the Oilers. Both teams with just five alarm chances. It wasn't a particularly good or exciting game, but it was a win for the Oilers when they badly needed a win against a team that struggled all year. So let's do our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast. Bruce, what is your good thing?
Oh, I got to go with the shutout man tonight, Mikko Koskinen. I thought he had an excellent game under kind of a difficult game because of the flow of play, and chances would kind of develop out of the blue. And he was standing tall always, and about probably 40% of the time, it seemed like the Flyers would miss the net or under execute when they had the puck really in the danger zone. But Koskinen did come up with a few excellent stops there, and it just really punctured any chance Philly had to get in that game. You know, with sort of average goaltending, that easily could have been 2-2 down the stretch. You know, not 2-0 for Edmonton. What do you have for 5 alarms? Five such.
5, and then 9 grade A's, but
mm-hmm.
there was lots of borderline grade A's, like kind of outside shots that were tricky. Bruce, he looked as good in the nets, like in terms of how he looked and his stature in that, he looked as good as he's looked all year to me. He just really looked like he was in command. Like he was not fighting it in any single way. And well, that's good news for the Oilers because, as we know, Koskinen can get on hot streaks if he's not overused, and he can play well. So maybe there's something going on here.
Yeah. Anyway, he's standing tall. I like how he's aggressive in the crease. He's not like tied to the crossbar the way Smith has been this last while. He's aggressively out on top of his crease or further out than that when there's Shooter's got no options. Big Mikko comes outside of the blue paint. Well, Shooter isn't going to see a whole lot of net now, is he? And they didn't see any net. His biggest problem was when the puck was on his own stick. There was a first period power play for Philly where Mikko almost put one puck over the glass after about 20 seconds of the power play, and then he did shoot one over the glass about 50 seconds later, and they wound up with the 2-man advantage for minute 11. And this was a key turning point in this game, Edmonton killing off that 5-on-3 power play and the 2 shorter 5-on-4s to either side of that, and emerging from that 0-0 and then scoring themselves on their first power play minutes later. Their second power play, but right after they killed the 3-on-5. That really turned the game around. And Koskinen, for the mistake that he made taking that penalty, he made a couple of good stops on the penalty kill. And the trio of CC, Nurse, Draisaitl really got the job done in there too, and kept the play mostly to the outside, and they even managed to rush it down the ice and kill a bunch of time in Philadelphia's end of the ice, courtesy Mr. Draisaitl.
Yeah, that was Mikko's first shutout day of the year, and
since 2019, his first shutout in almost 3 seasons. Yeah.
So statistically, his best game of the year. What would you? I gave him an 8, Bruce, because Yeah, I was thinking it
Hmm.
not
Yeah,
there just wasn't enough action. It was a great game. It was a great game.
that's a great game, and that I agree with that. I think his more outstanding game was the one in Florida, even though
Oh
he gave
yeah.
in 3 goals,
Yeah.
and he graded out a 9 in that game, which is outstanding, and 8 merely means great game, and I think that's a pretty good description. He kept everything out. He made a few real good stops. He was solid as an oak in there. I mean, that's what you want. But it wasn't like he completely stole the game, but he sure didn't let Philadelphia steal it. And that was a goaltending duel. Carter Hart made some dandy stops as well.
Carter Hart was really good. And yeah, the Oilers the difference was the Oilers were able to get a couple in. They jammed in their chances when they had to
Hmm.
do it. Bruce,
Hmm.
my good thing, I'll go with the play of the Oilers' two centers, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl.
Hmm.
They've had a lot of hockey in the last little while, and excuse me, and you might have thought that both of them would be tired.
Hmm.
Uh, that said, the Oilers really needed this win, and they
Yep.
really needed their best players to be their best players,
Hmm.
and they were.
Hmm.
McDavid was fantastic tonight. I thought he was just
Hmm.
all night long dancing with the puck, really super dangerous. He led the team with 7 shots on net. He, according to our calculations, our observations, he was made a major contribution to 8 grade A shots, again leading the team. He came out right from the start. He was attacking the net, making plays on the net. Nearly got a couple of really good shots on net early on. Then early in the second, he pulled off the Zetterberry, I guess.
Hmm.
That play where you the Derek Ryan made the other night, and that
Right.
I think it was Tony Brar of the Oilers that pointed out that this was Zetterberg's famous move.
Hmm.
And what it is, you're going down one-on-one with a player. You have a step on them, but that player could easily force you into an outside shot. But you
Hmm.
pull the puck quickly under their stick as they're defending, and then you make a hard aggressive move with your body into the middle of the ice, and then fire off
Hmm.
the puck. And he did that and got off a dangerous shot early in the second period. Um, yeah, and other plays, he was involved in all kinds of really nice plays, and got an empty netter for his
Yeah,
29th goal of the season.
got a cheap assist, kind of on the Draisaitl goal, just sort of a routine pass back to the point. But he did make other plays where he would have gotten a well-deserved assist that didn't wind up in the net, and then the empty netter at the end. Yeah, the Zetterberg. Yeah, I read Tony's tweet on that, and I remember you exclaiming about that move by Ryan on Sunday during the podcast, as I recall, and thinking to myself, man, Zach Cassian, why doesn't he ever do that? But he'll pull up and do the button hook, let alone make a power move to the net. And it just, you don't have to be huge to do it. You just got to get your nose in there and do it.
So Leon Draisaitl is the second part of my good thing, Bruce, and he was also really skating well. He had some defensive mistakes. There was a few that he was in on, but he was in on Edmonton's first 5 alarm chance early in the second period. He made a fantastic move where he just kind of spun and twisted down the boards and went hard to the net, put it on net, and Derek Ryan jammed a shot at the goalie, in tight, and that was a really great play. And on the Oilers' second goal, he made, 2 great plays. First of all, he controls the puck in the corner with his
Yeah.
trademark fantastic puck protection move and makes a great, I think it was a backhand pass over to Duncan Keith, who made a fantastic pass himself to Bouchard. And then
Hmm.
Bouchard whips the shot on net. And who's right beside the net then to fire the puck and almost score? Leon Draisaitl.
Hmm.
Um, and Yamamoto finally puts it in. And
Hmm.
just a great play that he was involved in there. His power play goal, um, I'm not exactly sure how that beat Carter Hart. It seemed like a savable shot to me, and it seemed like Carter Hart got a good view of it. And it looked like it was fluttering a bit, like maybe it was a bit of a knuckle puck, and I don't think it was
Never got
screened
tipped.
or tipped. So I don't know. You're Leon Draisaitl. You put enough hard shots and he did kind
Yeah.
of pick the corner ish. You put enough shots on net, and you're going to get one or two like that. He doesn't get a lot of that kind of goal. Most of them he just slams it home. But that was a nice goal as well. So good. That was I gave him a 7, and I gave McDavid an 8 out of 10 for the game. And I just
That's
thought
fair.
they both played very well.
That's fair. Draisaitl, he's a lightning rod, man. A couple of Leafs fans this morning on Twitter were trying to convince me that Leon was the worst defensive player and just a junk defensive player and stuff. And I know we've had discussions. He does make defensive mistakes, but guess what? He also makes great plays defensively. And our system doesn't rate him. And apparently some people that don't watch the game and only see the occasional highlights don't even know what's going on out there, because Leon makes a lot of fine defensive plays. There was one tonight, defense to offense. Some guy on Philly zinged a high pass right through the Edmonton slot, and Leon took it right out of the air, about 2 feet off the ice, took it down with the paddle, and he was gone the other way on a 3-on-2 rush, drove the defense all the way back, pulled up, and fired a perfect cross ice pass to Nurse on the far point for a dangerous play. And it was just sort of beautiful hockey from one end of the rink to the other. And he's capable of those moments, or stretches, sequences of just super elite play like that. And a lot of games, it's pretty rich admixture of the two. Like he did have a couple of howlers in this game, no argument. But I also thought he was pretty close to the best player on the ice overall. I mean, he did a lot of things right. I thought he had 3 points, to tell the truth, but anyway, we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, there was a couple ones. He and Bouchard, I think twice, maybe even, were beat, and the Flyers muffed those chances.
Yeah.
Beat into the slot. But so there was that, and I've always felt like he can be a fantastic defensive player. He often is, but he's an idiosyncratic player. He plays the game his way, and it often leads him to reading the play, and sometimes he guesses wrong, and something bad happens. But he can be a good defensive player. Maybe is there some stat, like I know a few years ago when he and McDavid, when he won the MVP, didn't he and McDavid have terrible goals against per 60, 5-on-5? I'm not sure where he's at this year in that regard, but
better.
Bruce, in our plus minus, where we actually just give you credit for when you create a goal and a minus for when you make a mistake on a goal against, Leon Draisaitl is freaking outstanding on this every single year.
Yeah.
He is right up there with McDavid, way ahead of everybody else on the team in terms of real goals plus minus, like where you actually make a play to score a goal and you actually make a mistake on a goal against. Leon Draisaitl is such a fantastic plus hockey player. And I, if other people use this system, like if you were rating the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm sure Austin Matthews would also rate very well. I don't know if he'd rate as highly as Leon Draisaitl, though, in this regard, because Leon really does create a lot of goals. And in the end, he doesn't seem to give up a lot of goals against. Even in that year where he had a bad, on ice number for goals against. So yeah, he's he is a lightning rod. He's such a fantastic hockey player. I criticize him a lot, but I really, really admire his game and think he's one of the top 5 NHL players today.
Well, Bruce, we know he could be better, right? Like he could be off, if he was like on top of his game all the time, which few players are, to be honest.
Yeah, that's right.
He would be even more amazing than he is. But another game-winning goal tonight,
Yeah, who actually is that player that's great all the time? And we've seen McDavid and Draisaitl now for how many years, and so we've seen greatness. And even with them, like there's plenty of mistakes that they're making all the time. So especially in the defensive end, but go ahead.
Sorry, a stat for you. Since Jay Woodcroft came up and took over the team and gave the centers their new responsibilities. 10 games now under Woodcroft. 5-on-5, Draisaitl's been on the ice for 9 goals for and 0 against. Not a single goal scored against Draisaitl at 5-on-5 since Woodcroft took over 10 games ago.
And he's been mainly playing center without McDavid, right? And I
Right.
just think that is
A lot of minutes.
that is the way the Oilers have to go.
Yeah,
And they're doing it. Of course, they have the wingers now to do it. You know, they do have Kane, and they've got Hyman and Fogle, and who's a good player, and Yamamoto, who's a good player. Boy, like Yamamoto made some fantastic defensive stops in the slot. He made a couple of them. And he had I gave him a 7, and he scored a goal, like a really nice goal. Bruce, why don't I just segue to my bad thing here, because we've been kind of edging around it, but yeah, Yamamoto's goal. There were fabulous plays by Draisaitl, Duncan Keith, who made a absolutely stellar pass. As soon as it hit his stick, it was off the ice diagonally to Bouchard, and Bouchard had all kinds of time in there, and he hammered a great shot. Draisaitl then puts it back on net, almost scores. And then Yamamoto comes in the scramble and slams it in the net. And the NHL, in their non-wisdom, gave 0 assists on that play. Like that is ridiculous. I don't even know if a Flyer got his stick on the puck. Sure didn't have full possession of it. He did not have full possession of it. And they should go back and review that and give Draisaitl and Bouchard assists. That's not justice in terms of
they took him away. They gave him assists, and then they took him away. They determined the guy had possession, and basically Leon powered the puck into the crease and was loose in the blue paint, and the Flyer guy tried to shove it out, and he shoved it about 1 foot, and Yamamoto came and hammered it into the net. But there was no kind of possession or control at any point. It was a desperation play. Edmonton caused the scramble. Philly couldn't solve it. Edmonton scored. I mean, to me, that was a goal. It was almost Yamamoto from Draisaitl, Kane, Bouchard, and Keith. I mean, they were all involved in the play, because Kane was in there raising Kane in the crease, and that was part of the reason Philly couldn't deal with the situation. Anyway, whatever. It went up on the big board, and it was a good play by Yamamoto, and as you point out, one of more than one that he made in this game. I thought he was pretty good in this game.
Might have been one of his best games of the year. Yamamoto's been kind of, he's been up and down, but he was really playing well tonight. Bruce, what's your bad?
2 shots, 2 hits, two block shots, a takeaway, and the most bogus penalty that we've seen since probably last game.
Yeah. It's hard to get it right if you're
see what I did there
too. I did. Yeah. Well, we all remember.
My bad thing is the ice and the puck in Philadelphia. I still think of it as the Spectrum. I know it's some corporate name, acronym arena now. Anyway, Wells Fargo Center. There you go. Anyway, the puck was bouncing. Nobody could get control of it. There was a couple of sequences there. It was almost comically Keystone Cops bad, where it was just bouncing around. They couldn't get it out. They couldn't get it in. They couldn't control it. Went from one team to the other team to nobody having it at all. And the puck was just, I don't know if they didn't freeze the pucks, or maybe they forgot to freeze the ice. It was weird. And I think it crimped Edmonton's style in some ways more than Philly's. And on the other hand, Philly's inability to execute and around the net, some of that was due to pucks bouncing off of sticks and stuff. And I just thought it introduced too much of an element of chaos into this game. And hats off to those players who were able to control the puck and settle it down and get it to do what they wanted to do, because that was no easy task in this game.
Yeah, sometimes it is just the game. Like sometimes that just happens, but often it does. Bad ice is a part of it, and chippy ice is a part of it. Yeah, that was a weird one. There was that was not a very thrilling game in terms of great plays being made. There was very few of those. Maybe, and I just thought maybe it's the Flyers because they're such a crappy team this year. But
well, I'm going to blame the ice.
Fair enough. What is your number, Bruce?
Okay, my number is 200. And that is the number of NHL games played by one Brad Malone. And I think Brad Malone deserves a big shout out for making it all the way back to the NHL 3 years after his last game, which was the last game of the 2018-19 season, which he finished out with the Oilers. Happened to be his 199th. And that was the game that Leon got his 50th in Calgary. And then that Connor got hammered into the goalpost when he got taken down by Giordano and wrecked his knee. It was a pretty momentous game, and you probably don't think much about Brad Malone when you think of that game. But you can think that was a long time ago now. That was his last NHL game, and since then he played a year down in Bakersfield, never got the call. And then he accepted a 2-year AHL only contract. And I thought, well, that's it, the NHL dream. Once they accept an AHL deal, you don't generally see him again. And too bad he's, on the cusp of this little personal milestone of his. And, all he did down in Bakersfield was bust his ass for Jay Woodcroft. He was his captain for those 2 seasons that he signed the AHL deal. He had like 21 goals, 31 assists, plus 21 in 62 games over those 2 sort of partial seasons. So it's the most he's ever scored at the AHL level in his life. He's actually improving as a scorer in his 30s. You do not see that very often. And the Oilers signed him the day that Jay Woodcroft got the job. And it took a while for things to work out. He got COVID the first time they almost signed him, but they called him up, and Woodcroft put him in the game tonight, his 200th. And you know what? He played 9 minutes and 22 seconds of this game, but he played more than half of it in the third period when the Oilers were sitting on the 2-0 lead. And you'd see Brad Malone out there. He had 4 shifts in the last 6 minutes, in fact, 5 shifts in the last 9 minutes of the game. And he went 4-0 on the face-off dot. He had 3 hits, including at least 1 doozy of a hit. He really smoked one guy.
Zach McEwen.
Yeah.
Extra points for that. Zach McEwen, like one of these guys. Yeah, one of those guys we don't like.
He's the guy that thugged Cassian, isn't he, McEwen?
Yeah, that's right.
In the fight,
yeah, is that
he concussed Cassian when he was with the Canucks in the preseason. Yeah, okay. I had not made that connection. All I know is he really hammered the guy. But I just thought he came in and he played like the professional that he is. And hats off to you, Brad Malone. That 200th game milestone took a lot more work for you than it did for a lot of guys. And I love stories like that. I mean, I live for that kind of stuff. Underdog stories. So
he's 32 years old now, and this year in the AHL, he did have his best points per game season, I think, or he's close to last year actually. 31 points in 35 games. He's been used in the power play, I understand, this year in Bakersfield, so that partly explains it. But Bruce, where has this guy been all this year? Because this guy, the player I saw tonight, he's exactly what the Oilers have needed in a 4th line role at center all year long. A big guy who hits and can play some hockey. I mean, and shame on me, shame on us, anyone who kind of laughed a little bit when he signed the pro contract and think
I thought it was great.
And he got called up, and he got called up. I was thinking, well, I was just thinking, there's no way, because having seen Brad Malone before in the NHL, I just thought there's not a player here. But there is a player. He has improved. If this game is indicative of Brad Malone, like what he can really bring game in, game out, he has improved his game. He didn't look as slow. He looked better with the puck than he has in the past. And he looks like, the Oilers, we've been saying the Oilers need a big physical player who can play some defense and help on the penalty kill and get the job done for the Oilers on the 4th line. And
there he is.
Could this be him? Wouldn't that, now that would be a great story. If he, like, one game is just one game, but if he can continue to do this over a length of time, I agree with you, Bruce. This will be a fantastic story for the Oilers for this to happen. So fingers crossed. Good for Brad Malone on his debut.
Yeah, sort of debut. I mean, he's played in prior seasons. He played 6 and then 17 games for the Oilers on call-ups. And both
16,
years, or 7 and 16, he got no goals, no assists, no points, and an even plus-minus. Like nothing happened when the guy was on the ice. But you know what? In the Bettman Point era of the NHL, a guy that can saw off has value. It's not just null value; it's actual positive value. And in a game like this where you're protecting a lead, that guy is useful. And if you're trailing, well, maybe he doesn't get as much ice. So I don't mind it. I've seen him play enough in Bakersfield to go, holy moly, this guy's a real gamer. like he's tough. He's got a mean streak, and he can play in Bakersfield. He plays all situations and plays them well.
He's a graybeard. Okay, my number, Bruce. I'm going to go with 0, which is that was Duncan Keith keeping a clean sheet. So at even strength, he did not make one major mistake on a grade A shot against. And Cody Ceci also kept a clean sheet. So two defensemen in the top 4 did that in this game. Tyson Barrie and Darnell Nurse didn't. They struggled a bit now and then. But I want to single out Keith because he's been high event all year. He's leaked more grade A shots against, made major mistakes on them than any other, a higher rate than any other Oilers in a top 4 role, any other Oilers D-man in a top 4 role. He's had his struggles on defense, but he looked really good in his comeback game here. He's back from injury. And he moved the puck exceptionally well. He defended well. He looked really solid. And good for him. And again, it's just one game. You never know if these things are going to continue. It was one game on choppy ice against the team that struggled. But I don't think he was actually in the middle of any of those muffed chances either. I don't think that was other defensemen who were in the middle of that stuff. He was pretty good all game long. So that's a good sign, Bruce. The Oilers really, obviously, they need Duncan Keith. They need all these players to perform, but they really need, anyone in a top 4 role on defense. He played 15-56 plus 2. He made a nice play on the empty net goal, getting the puck out and up the ice to the 3 forwards charging down there. So that's a good. It's better than the opposite. Like, good for him coming in and having that great debut great returning, I should say, from injury.
Yeah, no, he was very good. If we'd have done our 2 good things each thing, he would have been my second good thing in this game. I thought he played a strong game. I thought he was on the puck and in his own zone as well. And now he played a fair bit with Evan Bouchard in this game, just bringing up the ice time. Yeah, he played 6 minutes with Bouchard, during which time Oilers outshot the Flyers 9-2, 6 minutes. And he also played with William Lagesson a little bit, about almost 5 minutes. So he only played 2 minutes with Ceci. So he was really more third pairing than second as I worked him back in. But I liked his partnership with Bouchard a lot. And I'm thinking maybe this is the kind of partner Bouchard needs because he's had his struggles when he's played with another young defenseman, and of course Duncan Keith is anything but that. And I thought he did a good job of getting the puck to Bouchard, with Bouchard then having room to do stuff with it, including on that goal where he set him up so cleanly that Bouchard was able to walk in, hold the puck, pick his spot, nearly beat Hart outright, but begin the scoring sequence all the same. And that was the terrific play by Keith. So
yeah, maybe he could work with Bouchard. I mean, I was a little skeptical because they're both like leaky in terms of grade A shots, real leaky. But Keith is like, if you're a critic of Duncan Keith this year, and there are many, there are no shortage of those people.
I've been one myself.
I think if you do not give him credit for being a super sharp puck mover and smart with the puck, I don't think you're an honest critic. Like, I don't know what you're seeing, honestly, because he has been really good with the puck all year long. And the point that you're making, that maybe teaming that kind of player with Bouchard is a good idea, it could well be. It could free up Bouchard to make some really great plays if he just has a little bit more time when he has the puck. Because Evan Bouchard can make great plays with the puck. Like, he's fantastic as well. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's going to come down to how well can they defend, especially against tough cycling teams, and just against top offensive teams. How could those 2 players hang in there? And maybe they could. We'll see. They both have to step it up a bit, but sometimes you get the chemistry and you get your mindset correct, and you take off as a pairing. So.
Well, if Keith can get the puck to Bouchard, and I think we agree that Keith's quick movement passing of the puck is his top skill.
Yeah.
He can get it to Bouchard in Oilers' end, And Bouchard's got a little bit of time. He's capable of making the great outlet passes himself. And of course, so is Keith personally.
Yes.
And in the offensive zone, though, you give Bouchard a bit of room, and boy, that's trouble for the other team.
Well, that's really where it's exciting, isn't it, Bruce? If you think about that, like if that play that we saw tonight, if they can replicate that once a game, where Keith makes this really super quick pass over to Bouchard, and Bouchard suddenly has wide open space, he's going to make something happen because Evan Bouchard, he looked tonight. He had some defensive struggles, but Bouchard was really good with the puck and made some. He was involved in 4 grade A shots at even strength with his passing and shooting. So that's a really good number for a defenseman.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So Chicago Thursday night, Bruce?
Yep. They're next.
Oh,
That'll
boy.
be a big game for Duncan Keith.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's played twice against Chicago. He got hurt in the second game, of course, but they were both in Edmonton, and it's not quite the same for a former player to play his old team in his new barn. It's really hits home when he goes back to the place he played for many years. So it'll be a big night for him in the United Center on Thursday, and hopefully he rises to the occasion and has another good game. This was very encouraging, though, for a guy who hadn't played for 3 weeks. I thought he was sharp.
Yeah, let me just look at the standings here real quick. I don't know if you've looked at them tonight or not, but see where the Oilers are right now.
Tied with Dallas with -1 games in hand, so they'll be 2 points ahead of Dallas.
You're talking a wild card race.
Yes.
So in the West, they played the same number of games as Los Angeles. Los Angeles has 2 more points. So nothing to speak of separating the 2 teams, except for 2 points. Vegas has played 1 game less and has 1 less point than Edmonton. And Anaheim's played 1 game more and has 4 points less than Edmonton and Los Angeles. Calgary's got a comfortable lead. So it's LA, Edmonton, and Vegas are really in a big fight here. Conceivably, Anaheim and Vancouver even could go on a huge streak and get back into it. It's looking less likely with every game that passes, but there's 3 teams right in the middle of it. And I like Edmonton's chances, Bruce. We just need some goaltending.
They've been getting more of it than they were.
Yeah, Koskinen's been good.
Edmonton's 7th in points and 9th in points percentage in the West, but it's like a dogfight, 587, 585, 583. So I'll call that a virtual tie. And they're in a more encouraging position now than 7-3 under Jay Woodcroft, and that really has brought them back to sort of level playing field in terms of going forward. And now it's just a matter of staying healthy and executing that game plan and letting the big guys find ways to win games for them.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like it's interesting, Bruce, because I don't think we're yet to see super chemistry from any of the top lines. We're yet to see McDavid or Draisaitl form a line themselves, I think, with a group of players and have that line take off and have the team kind of ride that line. And it's possible that one or both players will find line mates before the end of the season where that will happen. I mean, we've seen that in other years with McDavid and with Draisaitl on different lines. And we could see that again this year. And that would be huge for the Oilers. And I think I'm expecting to see that one of those guys is going to get on a line that's going to start really putting it together. And that'll be a big difference. And so it just, if the Oilers get any kind of goaltending at all, I think they're in the playoffs personally, but that is a question mark, isn't it? So,
yeah, 28 games to go, and it's getting down to the nitty gritty. I often will do an analogy comparing an entire season to a single hockey game in terms of how it develops. And right now, it's like Edmonton's getting to the second intermission of a tie game. And, it's all on the line in the third period.
Fair enough. In terms of making the playoffs, it's exactly what it's like. And yeah, there's not going to be any easy moments through the rest of this.
This game, I was exceedingly tense at times watching this game, even though, Edmonton was in control on the scoreboard, but there was just enough sloppiness in there and pucks going the wrong way at times, and
You never
the
know.
tension is ratcheting up.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, Bruce, let's leave it there for tonight. Thanks for talking.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.